Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Wednesday, November 8th, 2017. I was slightly delayed, busy winning all the seats in Virginia. Does anybody want one? I've got plenty for you. Slow wake up for the computer this morning. I don't know what was going on. I, of course, distracted with all the activity going on in the house today. A little bit of a late start, but man, just the slowest wake up for our Kagro in the Morning emergency laptop, which isn't supposed to be what we're broadcasting on usually. We went out of our way to buy this fantastic new system that wouldn't have these problems, and then all of a sudden, all of the work getting done in the house has forced us into the basement, where the fantastic new computer, I guess I could have at this point, since I knew I was going to be down here for so long, I could have set everything up. But there's no room for the monitor that I need. You know how it is. Laptop just makes it a whole lot easier. But man, it was just yawning and wouldn't roll out of bed this morning. So we're a minute or two behind, maybe 3 or 4 minutes behind on getting things started, but we might as well just jump right into it. Hey, Ralph Northam, he won in Virginia. Up in, everywhere we were having off-year elections, things went well. We'll round up all the results. I happen to be here on the ground in Virginia, and so that's the one that's got all my attention, and it's an exciting night. There's a lot to digest. Greg Dworkin is ready to roll, so let's just bring him in. I've already pressed the button about 10 minutes ago to connect his call, and only now are we now connecting via Skype. Good morning. Thanks, Greg, for coming to
Hey,
the
good morning.
right away.
How are you?
A little bit rattled, but, at least it's not bad news that I had to rush onto the air to deliver. It's pretty good. I haven't got a handle on all of it yet, but, man, there's a lot to talk about.
I'm going to go through some tweets just to summarize things while you collect your thoughts and get your coffee. And
I don't have any thoughts.
Right. Make breakfast, whatever.
Yes, thank you. All right.
But George Takei had a great tweet that I started out with. He said, I know this is a hard time for Trump and the GOP, so I offer my thoughts and prayers.
Well, what else can you offer?
What else can you offer? I had my hot take from this morning.
Yes.
Trump hasn't won over Clinton voters yet.
That's true, and he really needs to work at it. And
if you're from Virginia, you'll really appreciate this. And if you're if you study American history, you'll appreciate it too. Brennan Gilmore tweets, "Yes, Santa Claus, there is a Virginia."
Excellent. Okay, this is pretty good stuff.
This is good stuff, but actually, if you get down to the meat of it here, Nicholas Trevino tweets, when asked about Bob Marshall.
Yes.
Who's one of the people who lost in the Virginia House of Delegates and a sponsor of a bathroom bill. When asked about Bob Marshall, Danica Rome, who happens to be a transgender woman who beat him, said, I don't attack my constituents. Bob is my constituent now.
Yeah.
She has more grace and composure than I will ever have, says Nicholas Trevino. And this is just amazing. It's one of the most amazing things that happened. Let me give you a quickie summary here from Charlotte Alter. Right. A trans woman beat the guy who introduced the bathroom bill. A gun victim's boyfriend beat a delegate with an A grade from the NRA. That was the guy whose girlfriend was shot to death live on TV.
Right.
A civil rights lawyer who sued the police department just became the top prosecutor in Philadelphia. Something's happening here, folks. And it isn't just in those places. It isn't just Virginia, although we'll get to that because that was a big one. Mm-hmm. It turns out I have this fantastic headline from the Hartford Courant this morning about all the small towns who had elections in Connecticut. Citing Trump fallout, Connecticut voters go big for Democrats. And that citing Trump fallout is important. Yes. Headlines in the New York Times and the Washington Post, for example. The New York Times says Democrats scored 2 big victories in Trump rebuke. The Washington Post, victory for Northam in Virginia. Democrats sweep statewide elections, seen as a barometer on Trump. That includes the House of Delegates, which is about even now, and in fact may even fall to the Democrats after all the recounts are done. We have to see. But that nobody saw coming. Nobody saw a 9-point lead for Ralph Northam. And it's funny because I figured Northam would win. I figured it was going to be 3 points or more. Mm-hmm. It was more.
Yes.
But everybody, keeps saying Northam wrote. It was a terrible campaign. It was awful. He stumbled. He did this. He did that.
A lot of that.
The exit polling shows that people who made up their mind in the last week went 62 to 36 for Northam.
Oh.
Maybe it was Gillespie who had the terrible campaign.
Maybe
it turns out that all of those racist ads that he did, maybe all of the reputation-destroying campaigning that he did actually didn't work. And we kind of know why, because we do have exit polling on that.
Yeah.
And it turns out that a lot of white college graduate women didn't like him, 58 to 42 for Northam. White non-college women went 32-67 for Gillespie. White college men went 46-54 to Gillespie. And white non-college men went 22-76 for Gillespie. So of the white people, it was the white college women who wound up winning big for Northam. And as a matter of fact, Carrie Dan has a tweet about that. Female voters in Virginia in 2013, +9 for McAuliffe. In 2014, +12 for Warner. In 2016, +17 for Clinton. In 2017, +22 for Northam.
So among white women, we're saying this.
This is female
women.
voters overall.
Oh, really?
So the point there is, how do you get those high numbers? Black women.
There we are.
Everybody
That's
talks
what we're
about the
looking
women's
for.
vote, but we got to appreciate blacks and Latinos came out strong. And when you look at the turnout percentages, they're exactly the same as 2016. In an off year,
Yes.
whites did not come out more as they normally do, and that's normally a GOP advantage, and it wasn't. So thank you, everybody, white educated women, blacks, Latinos, people of color. In other words, if I may,
Yes.
black women, the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
When we show up, we vote. As my friend Radio Free Tom, the conservative, who I like to joust with on Twitter in the morning, I told him this is a great day to lecture Democrats on how to do things. And you know what he said?
And they're doing it. Yeah.
You know what he said to me back? He said, don't screw up.
Yeah.
He's right.
Right. Well, go govern.
But,
Democrats have to show they can
2016
govern.
is over. This is 2017. It feels good. It's the first time it's felt this good in a year.
Yes.
And, we got to build on it.
Yeah. Well, we do. And as we said yesterday in yesterday's post, we have to go take care of business and go win on the first regularly scheduled opportunity to show Donald Trump that he doesn't represent a majority of this country. And we did it.
Well,
And
but
in
don't forget,
spectacular
voting
fashion.
isn't over yet.
No, it's not.
Because Donald Trump Jr., remember, urged all of his supporters to show up today.
Right. And many of them are dumb.
And many of them are going to. So it turns out
I
Republicans
wonder.
may win Wednesday, even though we
Yes.
clobbered them on Tuesday.
Right. Well, yeah, in fairness, there's a lot of voter suppression on our side on Wednesday. We just tell people not to.
We
go.
tend,
It's done.
we're not fair. We tend not to count Wednesday votes.
Yeah. Well, all votes matter, I say. Anyway, a lot of things happened, and there's a lot to reflect on. By the way, a little bit of additional local color on the Bob Marshall, Danica Rome
Yes,
race.
please.
Bob Marshall, not just the sponsor of the bathroom bill, but he likes to call himself, this is a self-imposed designation, he likes to call himself Virginia's chief homophobe. He is like,
Really?
was. Right. Well, now he's just
No longer.
retired.
He's a homophobe, but he's not the chief anymore.
Right. He, like Eugene Delgaudio, was, like a real serious, loony, radical, almost proto-alt-right kind of person. And he was a serious
You
pain
mean
in the ass for a long time.
if LePage was there?
Yeah.
Is that kind of guy?
Well,
is he like obnoxious, loud Trumpian?
More than that. Like I said, Eugene Delgaudio is a guy who is chiefly involved in this, but he was a big ally of his. And Eugene Delgaudio lost his local seat here too, but he was the kind of guy who during marriage equality debates was protesting outside the White House, with a donkey in a bridal veil saying, if this can happen, then that can happen, kind of that sort of guy. So he called himself Virginia's chief homophobe and insisted throughout the campaign on referring to Rome with male gerunds and male,
well, I have to tell you though, I mean, Bill in Portland, Maine can rule in on this, but I have to think Paul LePage, fits right in with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, he does in his own way. These guys were spectacular in their bigotry, and it was working for them for a long time. And the constituent role, the constituent jibe, I mean, it's a great one. It's a great comeback. And it was very interesting. I saw it observed both as fantastic and graceful and also a pretty sick burn at that. And it's both. And it was a very clever comment. Bob Marshall is the kind of guy who will put out a press release announcing, "No, I'm not. I'm moving." He's that kind of guy.
Yeah, totally get it. I have to say, though, I mean, there's two big themes that go along with what happened yesterday. And one, of course, is that voters across the country rejecting Trumpism.
Yes.
And the other is that the Affordable Care Act is really popular and healthcare won this all over the country.
That is really true. There was big exit polling information on that in Virginia and I'm sure elsewhere.
That was the big issue. In Maine, people voted to increase and expand Medicare and Medicaid. And by the way, because of what happened in the House of Delegates, which is an incredible increase for the Democrats that might even turn into controlling the chamber, Medicaid might get expanded in Virginia now.
Right. Oh, and another lesson in Every Vote Matters. I believe the last serious outstanding race in the House of Delegates that will determine the difference between a 50-50 split and a Democratic majority is hanging on 12-vote margin at the moment. So
does that include absentee ballots?
I don't know because I'm absent from that district. I assume that it does not yet include that, and there'll be some recounting. I haven't updated myself on that race, but I did see somebody pointing that out and saying, by the way, 12-vote margin as it now stands could determine not only whether or not there's a majority in the House of Delegates, but remember there's going to be redistricting going on. It could determine the makeup of the House of Representatives for the next decade as well. Please vote.
Okay, so now we got to make a plug for one of my friends in Virginia.
All right.
Who voted and got two family members of hers to vote who were normally reluctant non-presidential voters.
There you are.
And then kicked another 8 people at work to go out and vote. So a 12-vote margin, there's 11 votes right there.
Right. It's all in that district. That's amazing.
Well, I don't know if it's all in that district, but,
Well, it should have been. But yes,
the point is that individuals could make a huge difference. And, your vote does matter. Here's some comments from conservatives. Josh Krashauer says, these Virginia results, more than flake speech, more than Corker, more than Russia news, will do more to put a brake on GOP embrace of Trump than anything else. Elections matter. And Charlie Sykes says, for the GOP, the really sad and alarming part of tonight is that the Trumpist campaign Gillespie ran is a mirror of the way so many other Republicans have been transforming themselves. In other words, the GOP wants to become a Trump party? Fine. You're going to lose. Yeah.
There was a lot of messaging. I mean, we could.
This is the roadmap for 2018, right, guys? Just embrace Trump and go all out on MS-13 or whatever new cancer drug you want to think is really scary. Did this really matter? Did this make people vote for Gillespie? Actually, it made people vote against Gillespie.
Yeah, another.
So you're going to do it again?
Probably. Although one of the other messages that came out of it was Gillespie, to the extent that he ran a campaign that was positive in message in any way. I mean, it's a negative what he was selling, but his positive campaign was running on the platform of I will pass the biggest tax cut in Virginia history.
Yes, Jeff Garin pointed out the Democratic pollster for
Thank you.
Northam.
Yeah, and he got clobbered, and in a couple of days, they're going to ask Republicans, do you want to sign up for that agenda, please? Go ahead. Here it is.
Go right ahead. So I wrote this morning on the Pundit Roundup this hot take, Trumpism isn't all that popular. And Ed Gillespie in Virginia failed bigly in pushing it. Healthcare was the key in Virginia and Maine, now a Medicaid expansion state. But remember Andrew Jackson's famous words, to the victor belongs the overinterpretations.
Yes. Well, there's a lot to be gleaned
And we
from
won,
this.
so we're going to overinterpret.
Yay. That's what we do.
Yeah, Alex Rorty wrote, a big night for those who think the old rules of politics still apply. Midterm and unpopular president equals very tough election for incumbent party. Mm-hmm. So, this whole political gravity, nothing matters to Trump, everything matters. It all matters. He's not that popular. I keep telling you.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
his voters will never change. Yeah, but you
That's
don't
true,
understand.
too.
The number of people in the Republican Party who support him remains constant, but the size of the party shrinks. That means less votes.
Okay. I'm for that.
Larry Sabato writes, Dear pundit friends, please stop attributing the D-landslide in Virginia to changing demographics. Virginia hasn't changed that much since last November 8th. The bigger explanation is a backlash to Trump and Trumpism, pure and simple.
Yeah. There is changing demographics in Virginia, but it doesn't
But not
change that much
compared to
year to
last
year.
year.
Absolutely true. And even over a number of years, but there's a lot of backlash to Trumpism.
Was it Jerry Falwell from, where is he, Virginia Beach?
Yes.
Said, why doesn't Northern Virginia just secede and leave Virginia to the rest of us? Something along those lines?
Yeah, well, because
it's like everybody else has to do the secession. I'm too lazy to do it myself. You have to move. I'm staying.
That's the new thing, right? Like a reverse mortgage is reverse secession.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, all the people are up here, and you're an idiot, and you're surrounded by clods, and we outvote you every time. So shut up.
Right. So I was
Mr.
writing
Falwell.
this last night.
Yeah.
And I saw this piece in The Hill. It said Republican Representative Scott Taylor from Virginia, is a Virginia national representative, if I'm not mistaken, called Tuesday night's GOP defeat in Virginia's gubernatorial race a referendum on President Trump's administration.
Yes.
Taylor's remark represents a break with Trump's tweeted claim that Republican Ed Gillespie lost because the governor hopeful wouldn't tie himself closely enough to Trump.
Yeah.
And in fact, Taylor goes on to say, this is a disaster for us and people ought to really pay attention. So it's, supporting what Josh Krasauer wrote. And I wrote, Blueprint for 2018, Ed Gillespie ran a deplorable campaign and he lost. I wonder if Fox will cover it. And it turns out Fox really didn't cover it. I think they had like 8 seconds of Virginia election stuff and then now back to Hillary.
Yeah, basically. That's what I heard. I saw that.
I don't watch, so I can't tell, but apparently that's the Hannity show.
They really
which
tried
is
to
when all
avoid
this
it.
stuff was coming back.
Yeah, I heard the same. So I believe it. So there we're in agreement, I guess.
Mike Murphy, Republican strategist. We now know what a lot of us in the party already knew. The Trump message is a big loser in swing states, and he hurts the GOP far more than helps in those states. Suburban voters don't like Trump and his antics energize Democrats, and they don't really win over Clinton voters, I should point out. The myth of Trump electoral power will now start to melt. A wildly unpopular president is a big political problem for the GOP in swing states. And then Dave Weigel points out, the Dem gains in the Virginia House of Delegates are at the far upper end of projections. Just a brutal kicking for ours all over Northern Virginia.
Yeah, it was a big night for Northern Virginia. Ed Gillespie has run statewide here before, by the way. And
Right,
here
but he did much better, but he ran better campaigns. Now
Right.
that he went Trump, he tanked.
That's it. That's the basics of it. Here in Loudoun County, which is the home of Trump National Golf Club, where he comes to golf every weekend until it turns cold and he goes to Florida. Gillespie
You guys went,
last time-
21 points or so? I don't remember the exact
Gillespie-
number, but it's a really, really big number for Northam.
I have the raw vote margin. Gillespie was never super popular. He won in his last statewide race here by a narrow margin, 450 some odd votes, and I see that he lost by some 23,000 votes last night. So
he came close to what he did last time, except for 23,000 votes.
Yeah, right. There's a huge swing in the biggest, fastest growing exurban county in Northern Virginia.
Right.
Or
Frank
anywhere.
Bruni writes in the New York Times, the demonstration was convincing. Not only did Northam beat his Republican opponent by about 9 points, a margin of victory larger than either Clinton's or 2-point advantage that ushered the state's current Democratic governor, Terry McAuliffe, into office 4 years ago. But Democrats also performed strongly in other Virginia races, so strongly that one Democrat, Danica Rome, unseated a longtime Republican incumbent in the House of Delegates and will become the nation's only openly transgender state representative. The history is she made that you made flies squarely in the face of the bigotry and divisiveness that Trump sows. Just when we needed a sign that his America is not all of America, Virginia came to the rescue. Yes, Santa Claus, there is a Virginia, I say. And I guarantee you, Frank Bruni writes, that the Republicans up for re-election in 2018 saw it, shuddered, and will spend the next weeks and months trying to figure out just how much trouble their party is in and precisely how to repair it. Democrats are exceedingly familiar with that feeling. So the question is, do they go all in and ignore it and try to pass this humongous mistake of a tax bill, which is going to go nowhere in the Senate, and then they just look even worse? Or do they do some kind of course correction? I don't see how they can do a course correction. They're too stupid. They don't know how to govern.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that they're in the trouble they're in isn't because they chose wrong. It's because they don't know how to choose right. They literally don't know how to govern. It would require working with Democrats, and they are constitutionally incapable, impossible. I just don't see it.
I don't see it either. I don't know exactly what the results are going to be for the tax bill. They're so out of it that I could actually see them saying, now we have to pass it because...
Well, the House.
Well, the
but
House
then it comes to the Senate and it fails. I'm not even sure it passes any of the bird rule stuff.
That's true. That's now out there. That's a possibility that they may have violated the bird rule. I think some of that is easily fixed, but at the expense of, well, the tax bill never made any sense to start with, so it will now
and it's
make
getting worse
no
as they try to tweak it to make it fit the numbers.
Right.
Right,
well,
and then what happens is, who was Chris Collins, the guy from upstate New York, who was the first Republican to endorse Trump in Congress, had some statement yesterday saying that we have to pass this tax bill or the donors won't like it.
Yes, right, and we always knew that was the case.
You're not supposed to say that.
You are not, and yet they did.
I mean, screw my constituents. I don't care about the voters. It's the donors.
Yes, well,
so therefore, the Congress, the House, will pass. And what happened? They just cut back the excise tax because the international corporation donors were complaining about it. So the donors are going to complain about this tax bill, get even more breaks for themselves as it works its way through the House. And it's going nowhere in the Senate. It's not happening. There's already like 8 or 9 Republican senators who said they're not voting for it in its current form.
Yeah. So how's that hopey changey stuff working out for you?
Yeah, well, they're going to double down and do more of it because, look what happened in Virginia.
I guess so. I have no idea where they're going to do this.
They're stupid.
That
it's
much.
The only possible explanation. When it's Occam's razor. When all the other explanations fail, you got to go with the simple one.
I guess that's true. Man, there's a lot. There was also some interesting mixed notes yesterday, including a protest. I don't know how long or how brief at Northam's victory speech last night by people upset with his reversal, of course, at the late stage of the campaign on sanctuary cities. I am cool with
of which Virginia has none.
Yes, and probably likely will end up having none, although it may very well practice the same practice as any sanctuary city, just not adopting the name. I'm okay with the protest. Part of the reason that the victory was so big was that the people who you worry won't be able to put aside their one issue and pull together when it counts. Put aside for the day their one issue, pulled together when it counted, made the man governor-elect, and said,
and then they
okay,
can complain. That's perfect. That's democracy in
work.
Action.
Yes. So I'm cool with it. He's cool with it. It takes a little practice.
Right.
Being
As
in
we come up on the
politics,
break, I have to give you the best take of all, though.
All right. I'll give you some music for that.
Right. A second best take was from my friend Evan Siegfried, a Republican, because Donald Trump tweeted, Ed Gillespie worked hard but did not embrace me or what I stand for. Don't forget, Republicans won 4 out of 4 House seats, and with the economy doing record numbers, will continue to win even bigger than before. And Evan said, didn't embrace you. Neither did voters in Virginia.
That's right.
But the best take, the absolute winner is Chris Cillizza.
All right.
This week in Washington, right? What does he say?
Oh, we're out
on the
for
morning
now.
of Election Day, he says, is Ralph Northam blowing it in Virginia?
Welcome back to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. When we left you, we didn't really know we were running out of time. We had some idea of it, but Greg would have, you probably would have heard him say that the worst take of the day, was it? Or was it the best take of the day? That goes to Chris Cillizza.
Chris Cillizza.
Yes.
Who wrote, Happy Election Day. Are Democrats blowing it?
Oh, yes. Oh, so his morning tweet. Yeah, were they
Yes,
blowing
his
it?
morning tweet was, is Ralph Northam blowing it? For months, the assumption has been that Northam would be elected Virginia governor on Tuesday night.
Oh, my God. And yet we were.
Right.
All right, yeah. Well, and then, so in the morning, he'll write a column about how Dems
And
are
now,
inveterate
with just
handwriters.
hours remaining before the polls open, the race suddenly looks like a toss-up.
Whee!
And then he talks about, this is like one of the many, oh my God, what happens if Northam loses?
Yeah.
Because, I was wondering whether after the election, and I tweeted this the other night, after the election, can you sell all your hot takes on eBay?
You can reuse them. They're usable at any election. Yeah, right. I did see a lot of hand-wringing among the punditry anyway, and some hints that people were very upset, I guess, with Chuck Todd.
Why are you talking about how bad it is for the Democrats before the election's even in? What is your problem?
Well, that's what we usually do. That's how you recycle hot takes. I bought this on eBay last time, and now I have to do it again.
That's right. You bought it on eBay. That's where it came from. So before I go, I want to give you one last thing, and then a piece of an article.
Okay.
The last actually good take was from Jonathan Bernstein, one of my favorite political scientists who I always follow on Twitter. He writes in Bloomberg, even though some of the specifics of Tuesday's elections were surprises, the overall result weren't. Cut to the chase, he says. You're going to see a lot of analysis about it, but it's really very simple. This is what happens when a president is unpopular.
Yeah.
So all this stuff about nothing touches Trump, Teflon Don, it's a bunch of garbage. He got incredibly bad poll results, reviews from the American people ever since he was elected. It's been going steadily down since election, although it's been stable at down for the last few months. But the fact of the matter is people don't like him. They think he's doing a terrible job. It matters. And then it reflects on his party. And then when Bannon tries to run and say, no, be more like Trump, actual people say, no, thank you. And they vote Republicans who normally keep their jobs out of office. This is what's known in political terms as a wave.
Yes.
And guess what? It's building.
Cool. I'm good for that.
Cool. Of course, not with everybody. People will point out white non-college men are particularly stubborn and resistant to accepting that Trump is a disaster, because even when they know he's a disaster, they still love him. Here's a piece of Political magazine on that. Okay. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Johnstown never believed Trump would help. They still love him anyway. They totally accept that he's doing nothing to help them and that all of his promises are worthless, but they don't care.
I knew in college a white actual college guy from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So I guess he doesn't fit. But, it's it's
he
a
left.
place.
You didn't meet him in Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
No, I didn't, but not that far.
That's my point. You see, I win. Even so, her backing for Trump, I run rings about geologically there, as they used to say on Monty Python. So even so, her backing for Trump is utterly undiminished. I'm a supporter of him 100%. What I heard from Schilling, this woman, is overwhelmingly what I heard in my follow-up conversations with people here I talked to last year as well. Over the course of 3 rainy, dreary days last week, I revisited and shook hands with the president's base, 30-something% of the electorate who resolutely approve of the job he's doing, the segment of voters who share his view that Russia investigation's a wish hunt, has nothing to do with him, applaud his judicial nominees' determination to gut the federal regulatory apparatus, and how readily these same people had abandoned the contract he had made with them. Their satisfaction with Trump now seems untethered to the things they once said mattered to them the most. That's because they were lying. They're racist. Right?
I wonder.
When I asked this other fellow here about the past year, he said he didn't see any change because we got a new president. Nonetheless, he's our answer. I'm not going to blame him. Absolutely not. Is there anything that could change your mind? Nope.
That sounds like them.
Right? So for them, it's evidently not what he's doing so much as the people he's fighting. Trump is simply and unceasingly angry on their behalf, battling the people who vex them the worst: obstructionist Democrats, uncooperative establishment Republicans, the media, Black Lives Matter protesters, and NFL players. Boy, oh boy, do they hate kneeling NFL players, whom they see as ungrateful, disrespectful millionaires, and they love him for this. I think he's doing a great job, and I wish the hell they'd leave him alone and let him do it.
Okay, well, that's why there's nobody in Johnstown.
Right. So they don't care about facts. You can't persuade them with facts. See, the thing is, you got to persuade the people you can persuade, and for these folks, you just got to outvote them. Now, we are going to help them when we win, despite who they are, because they're all Americans and we're all Americans. But these folks are hopeless.
Well, we're going to help them clear the leaves out of their yards anyway.
I suppose that's what's going on in the background here, which is a good place to leave you. I'm going to leave you with the exit polling results for 2017 by education and race, by family income, by party ID. Democrats went 97% for Northam because we're divided, and Republicans went 95% for Republicans because for Gillespie because they're united. Independents 47% Northam and 50% Gillespie. There's a lot of Democrats in Virginia, and that is part of the reason why we won. Liberals went 92% for Northam, and conservatives went 90% for Gillespie because everybody knows liberals and progressives are divided, right?
Yes, they hate him and are very angry.
Moderates went 64% for Northam and 33% for Gillespie. So moderates and liberals both, and listen to this. Let me repeat this. The complaint about Northam is that he was too moderate. He won moderates 64 to 33. He won liberals 92 to 6.
Okay.
All right? Digest that. What does that mean? It means all this stupid stuff about he's too moderate and we won't vote for him, yada, yada, is garbage, is what it means.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of complaints about that. And
those are the hot takes you should go sell on eBay.
Yeah, those are right. You know, I don't know. There was an awful lot. It's almost as if varying election results meant varying things to different people.
Well, it's almost as if having the opportunity to vote against the Trump agenda and a racist motivated Democrats, liberals, and moderates to go out and vote for the same person who was representing the resistance to that.
Yeah, though they might want different things from that person. But
sure,
you know, I
and
think
so the day after he wins, or even moments after he wins, you can protest. That's fine.
No, you should shut up.
So long
as
you vote.
Yeah. Right. You vote, and then you show up at the party for people who voted for him and say, I did, and here's what I meant.
Right.
That's okay. I'm all right with it.
What mattered the most in the election, this is worth saying, you've already mentioned it, healthcare 39% for Virginia voters, gun policy 17%.
Oh, yes.
Taxes 15%, immigration 12%. That's his big issue. It was only 12%, abortion 8%.
Yes.
Okay, and in Virginia, 40% of voters approve of Trump, 57% disapprove, and, Northam won. So there you have it.
Yes.
That's everything. Oh, one more. I thought this was interesting. Was your reason for your vote for governor today to express support for Donald Trump? 17% said that.
Yes, they did.
Voted to express opposition to Donald Trump. 34% said that. Donald Trump is not a factor, 47%.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So half the electorate said that's not why they're voting. But the ones that mattered, the other half, 2-1 against Trump.
True. And I think it was
with that, I'll leave you before the leave people come back. So This is Greg Dworkin speaking with my friend Kagro in the morning. David Waldman, a voting member, a resident, a denizen of a winning Democratic blue state.
Yes, it's true.
Formerly known as a purple state. But hey, not after that has a delegate vote.
Nope, not anymore. Excellent. Thanks, Greg. Good luck with all those leaves.
Yeah, well, good luck with the rest of the show.
You gonna jump in the pile?
You're in.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Very good. Oh, all right. Very good. Thanks, Greg. Talk to you soon. Okay, yes, Armando is wildly entertained by your abandoning Trump voters at this point. So, okay, lots to round up here. There's more. And some of it is in pocket, and some of it is just in my tweets. There was so much news and so many hot and lukewarm takes that they didn't all make it into pocket. And it occurs to me that probably some of the more intriguing ones out there are probably still stuck in the tweet stream. By the way, just by way of update, I emailed late last night, so I don't have an answer yet, as to whether or not Julie Briskman has an official GoFundMe page to donate to, although Scott found one that he put in the summary yesterday, although I had to put a little cautionary language in there, that I would say purports to be raising money for Julie, and may very well be honestly doing just that, and with the caveat that if a bigger page should come along or her own page should be established and verified, they would just pass that money and donate it on to that page, which I guess we can hope hope we can take that person at their word. I don't know anything about them, so it's a little bit of a risk, I guess. But I emailed her to ask her. I was like, I don't know her that well, so that I don't know how super appropriate it is. But I was like, you don't have to answer me or anything. But and if you're not interested, you can say so. You can ignore whatever. But if you want that help, you want that support, even if you don't want the money and you're going to donate it to some worthy cause, I guess. Although you should be open with people about that, but you just want to kind of feel the support that you have out there in a rough time when you're on a job search. I'd be happy to tell people that I know that one or another of the pages out there is your official one. But I don't know. So I haven't heard from her yet this morning. She's probably pretty busy. She tweeted yesterday morning that being unemployed and all, she was going to be working at the polls all day. So I assume she had a pretty good day and a pretty good evening. And we'll see what happens when she gets back up. I went directly to her now iconic photo for expressing my sentiments because it happened here in Virginia. And because it's, of course, giving the finger to Donald Trump, which is essentially what we all did last night. I just thought that had should have a prominent place in our discussions this morning on Twitter. That picture being worth at least 14,000 words, I think. It's an inflated value, that one. All right, what other stories do we have? Pardon me. Frog in the throat. That's Pepe is now in my throat, and I can chew them up and swallow them and get rid of them once and for all. This is a story from outside of Virginia. Can't believe it. But in New Jersey, Greg mentioned that people who said they were voting based on Trump or in reaction one way or another to Trump were voting 2-1 in Virginia against Trump's favored candidate. And I believe the number was 3-1 among the same cohort in New Jersey. This story is from New Jersey, and I happen to pick this one up thanks to Lehigh 389, who I don't know whether Lehigh, as we'll call him or her, represented by a cat in the avatar here. And I can't tell whether the cat is male or female, and I don't want to assume the gender of this cat. But Lehigh 389, I don't know if you're listening or a big Twitter friend. Anyway, I frequently come across the posts, and we cross-pollinate our Twitter streams that way. Writes this one, or sends this one along. Woman who ran after Atlantic County, which is where Atlantic City is. Atlantic County freeholder, that's the county government. Board of Supervisors is similar here in Virginia. The county freeholder mocked the Women's March, and she won. She knocked them off the board. This is from the Philly papers. We've got here from the Inquirer and Daily News, Philly.com, sort of a consortium website. Let's check in with that one just to give you a brief update here. Amy S. Rosenberg, the writer on this piece. Ashley Bennett is the woman's name. She's 32, a psychiatric emergency screener from Egg Harbor Township, who showed up at an Atlantic County freeholders meeting to protest comments made by freeholder John Carmen mocking the Women's March, and then decided to run for his seat, knocked Carmen off the board Tuesday. Carmen's sharing of a Facebook meme, which runs like this: will the Women's March end in time for them to cook dinner? What? Well, it brought scores of women to protest at the obscure county board, one bearing a box of mac and cheese and instructions for Carmen to cook his own dinner. And it brought him national attention. I didn't see it. Including, most recently, being ridiculed on an episode of the podcast Love It, like L-O-V-E-T-T, Love It or Leave It, featuring U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand reading sexist quotes. Carmen said he was just joking around, but it was Bennett a Democratic challenger in a Republican stronghold district who had the last laugh, defeating him Tuesday by nearly 1,000 votes out of about 14,000 cast for the seat on the New Jersey legislative body known as the Atlantic County Board of Chosen Freeholders. He got unchosen, basically, is what happened. Bennett's decision to run, this is important, this part. Bennett's decision to run was embraced by progressive national groups like Run for Something. Maybe you've seen their frantic emails for months now, which has been recruiting millennials to run for down-ballot offices. She was the toast of Twitter early Wednesday. Run for Something itself did tweet thusly. Heck, yes, she did. Bennett for office. That's her Twitter handle, at Bennett for office. And what else have we got here? Amanda Littman tweeting, Ashley's story makes me so damn happy. That's good. I don't actually recognize Amanda's name, but she's got a Twitter check mark, so blah, 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 something important. People want change, Bennett wrote by text early Wednesday. I am beyond speechless and incredibly grateful to serve my community. I never imagined I would run for office. That's huge. That's the big thing. I love the success of the Everybody Run, or Let's Get Women in particular to run. Lots and lots of women unseating Republican incumbents yesterday, and I think that they may even have held like the majority of the really big time surprise races were run by Democratic women. So an excellent showing and very good news. Let's move on down the Twitter stream here today and pick up on a few other ones worth noting. I believe we've expressed adequately my my thoughts on the protest that happened at the Northam speech. I know there were a lot of people who thought, well, let him have his moment and come on and everything. And I feel the same. I feel some sentiment towards that. But I don't even know how long that protest went on. I was actually more disturbed by the notion that journalists could spend the day rolling their eyes and mocking Democrats rather than saying, why isn't this just why isn't this a show of how different the two parties are? Right? I mean, a Trump rally is going to be a Trump rally, and Democrats in this situation say, good, you won. We're part of the reason you won. We expect that you'll actually govern. So we want to talk to you about how you're going to do that. You wouldn't bother protesting as a Republican at a Trump rally because he's not going to listen to you. And the more you exhort him to do your, to pay attention to your agenda, the more he'll ignore it. And that's not the case with Democrats. And we expect that you will get to work right away. And we are people who have every reason to turn our backs on you, but didn't because it would punish not only us, but our neighbors as well. Instead, we'll pull together, vote for you, and then come and collect and say, yeah, we voted for you and we have this concern. And let me also add, there's significantly changed circumstances that we saw last night. I didn't mean to be, yelling at, sniping at, whatever, arguing with Dave Weigel, who tweeted this. And he wasn't alone. I also saw Jonathan Martin? I don't know. I can't even remember who did it last night. Also, a lot of eye rolling. Oh, Dems, they can't even enjoy a victory. And Weigel was writing this morning, Northam won the biggest Dem victory in Virginia since 1985 and was interrupted by protesters because Democrats. And then he shows the YouTube. And basically the same take from, I think, Jonathan Martin last night. And it wasn't that I don't think Weigel's a good reporter, and I don't even really particularly think this is a horrible, horrible, horrible take. But at the very least, it's not a good take. At the very least, I had something to say about it. Not only is it okay to protest, not only are Democrats attuned to that and can handle that, and not only is a professional politician going to be able to deal with that, and that's why they're pros, but like I said, there was something very different about last night. They spent the whole day yesterday and the day before and the day before that. Is Northam going to blow it? Is he going to ruin everything? Is he too moderate? Is he folding on these issues, et cetera, right? Well, okay. As much as we'd like him to have spine, and we want him to stand up for what's right no matter what, he I think in light of all of this, in light of all of the polling that still said it was relatively close race, in light of all the writing that said you could still blow this thing, he had reason at the time, as sad as it may make some of us, he had reason to be cautious, to worry, to think, I might have to hedge a little bit on this thing, which is a bold progressive stance because I believe that I have to walk this certain line in order to win. And I don't know whether that was right or whether that was wrong, but I understand that he had a case of nerves. There was a lot on the line. I don't know if I would have made the same decision as he did, but he made this decision. Okay, fine. Now, the Latino in particular, and also immigrant of other sorts communities, plus just people who just basically are for, fairness and justice for everyone, including immigrants, thank you very much, were disappointed perhaps in all of this. And we can get into the nuance of whether or not we need to have an officially designated sanctuary city in order to just practice the same as sanctuary cities might. No, we don't. But, okay, so he takes this cautious approach, and people could have turned their backs. People could have stayed at home, but they saw what happened. And this is as much of the coming out to vote because of Trump as, just a rejection of Trumpism. There could be the rejection of biting off your nose to spite your face, right? So you don't stay home. You come out and vote for the most reasonable alternative out there. And then you say, now, not only have we come out and delivered you a victory and we come to collect on our due for having helped, but we've really changed the circumstances. I don't think, if Northam was being cautious because he thought the race is pretty close and I could lose, but if I do well, if I do right, by myself anyway, I can hold on to a 3-point margin of victory and win, and then, maybe then I'll do something. Hopefully I can win them back by doing the right thing once I get in office. It's a classic calculation. I think we all know that it's out there, and you can never tell whether that's the calculation being made, and you have to take some risks. Some people actually just say, no, I really meant it, and screw you when I get in office. And others say, no, I need to do this so that I can get there, so that I can do the real right thing later. And yes, it'll make me look like a hypocrite, but I'll wiggle out of it because I've done the right thing here. So that's what I'm planning to do. I don't know. And every variant in between. But nobody was thinking there's going to be a gigantic wave that sweeps out the Republican majority in the House of Delegates and possibly delivers a majority to the Democrats in the House of Delegates, or at the very least leaves it tied in the House of Delegates. I don't think anybody really thought that was the case. And so by the end of the night, it was clear that it was a Northam victory, and a very big victory at that, and that there had been Democratic victories all over the place down ballot, and that might actually change control of the legislature. By the way, the situation in the state Senate is, I believe, 20 Republicans, 19 Democrats, and, of course, a new Democratic lieutenant governor presiding over the chamber. So that thing leaves things extraordinarily tight, and really a pretty good shape, considering where they started anyway, for Democrats. I mean, it's not an overwhelming majority. It's not like they can run roughshod over everybody, but it's considerably better than anybody was thinking was going to be the case. Now, that being true, is there not renewed reason to petition a governor who was not only delivered a victory, but a much bigger victory than even he anticipated, and handed the possibility of actually being able to put together maybe a governing coalition that works in the legislature? That's a person you want to reach as soon as possible with your message. You're looking for legislative relief here? Talk to the guy whose victory you just ensured and whose agenda you just breathed life into. Don't throw eggs, don't walk out, don't threaten, but come and express yourself and say, yes, we're here to claim our part of the bounty. You bet. And we are not going to wait because we know you're a serious person and are actually going to govern. I want to be in the office first to tell you we really need to consider this. And now, under these changed circumstances, you really need to give some consideration to what we're talking about. And I think that's perfectly fair. And they didn't, what can I tell you? They didn't blow the place up, right? So everything seems to be in order for the day. Okay, let's see. We'll squeeze in a few more mentions along the way before ducking out for the second of our breaks, which we still take despite the fact that we no longer need them for station identification. Now, the thinking, of course, is, we'll be able to, we should stay used to the idea of taking these breaks. Maybe we'll pick up other stations along the way. Okay. So what else is going on? Oh, yes, Donald Trump, he's still overseas, leaving South Korea, headed to China, as he says, to have some cake, presumably, with President Xi. So he's got to be depressed and ranting on the plane, and I think that's good, although that's not the greatest condition to leave him over there to conduct diplomacy in. But what can you do? Let's see. Oh, yes, one other, I guess, quick anecdote from the Virginia election. I'll have to scroll down a little bit more, but Dave Weigel, because he is a good reporter, and I take the good with the bad, he also was pointing out last night, and this is going to take some scrolling to find this thing, that yes, among the issues named as among the top ones by exit poll participants in Virginia, guns was a big, big issue. Here it is. Buried in the exit poll, Northam, who is F-rated by the NRA, which is to say he's got good positions on these things, tied with voters whose number one issue was guns. That is rather surprising, and the graphic he includes here makes the case pretty close. All right. What issue mattered most in your vote for governor? Among people who said gun policy was their most important issue, that was 17% of voters in Virginia said gun policy is my top issue. Among that 17%, 49-49, Gillespie versus Northam, 2% other or no answer, whatever that's supposed to mean, but basically tied 50-50 among people who were out there voting on guns. So that's pretty interesting. And I guess it explains some pretty, I guess it evidences some pretty serious anti-gun sentiment out there. And if you're looking at a map of Virginia, and you're looking at one of the red-blue maps, and where were the red voters and where were the blue voters, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how they break it down exactly on the maps that we were looking at, but my wife was noticing yesterday there was this weird blue dot actually like south of Roanoke to the southwest in Virginia, which is ordinarily pretty solidly red. And she was puzzling over what was it going on down there. What wasn't a major city or anything, and she couldn't really figure out what was this dot that happened down there. And that was the guy that I wish I can't even remember his name offhand, and I probably should get familiar with it. But this was the guy that Greg had mentioned, who was the fiance of the reporter who had gotten shot and killed live on television, running on a goddamn it, let's do something about guns for once here, and creating from out of nowhere a blue dot in the sea of southwestern Virginia red. So kudos there. I'll actually maybe identify the guy and thank him at some point after this. Welcome back to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on At Roots Radio. Let's fade our music out and tell you exactly who it was we were talking about. It's Chris Hurst is the name of the newly elected state legislator, and it is the Blacksburg area, which is it's a university town, although it's not really usually considered a Democratic or liberal stronghold, although I am sure that it colors the voting a little bit. It's the home of Virginia Tech, which has its own gun issues, you may recall, but never really swung hard Democratic in the wake of it. But I guess one more gut punch seems to have woken people up to this stuff for a little bit, or at least for now. Chris Hurst is newly elected then to the state legislature. And it was a real surprise just in terms of, I guess once you put a microscope down there and figure out exactly what you're looking at, it makes considerable sense. But in your brief scan, particularly if you're not necessarily overly familiar with the geography of Virginia, you might say, what's going on here in this vast swath of red to the south and west? And that's your answer. All right. Well, let's see. What other things can we squeeze in here? I'm sure that at some point, I'm assuming, because I haven't heard to the contrary, that Joan McCarter will join us and we'll have plenty to say about all of the elections and the effects that will be felt all over the place. Maybe catching up a little bit on what's going on in Congress, and we may chat just a bit about how bad is this tax bill, because it's garbage and getting worse. And yes, it has a bird rule problem, and we can discuss some of that too. But if we just want to revel in the results of yesterday, well, that's legit too. Let's see, what other fun items might we add? Oh, well, there was this a notice by John Aravosis, who took note of Rick Santorum on television last night, saying that Donald Trump's rhetoric and tweeting caused the Republican defeat in Virginia. And that's pretty sweet. I'll take that. I mean, who am I to deny the obvious power of Rick Santorum's mind, right? I don't want to, the guy's a genius is basically what I'm saying. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. However, it was well worth noting. I'll see what else is stuck down there in the Twitter feed and see if we can't add some more local color that way. And I'll also check through Pocket and try and grab hold of items of interest there just to sort of bide our time here. Let's see. Yes. Okay. Some of the varying hot takes, some of which are good, some not so good, some which have some rebuttals to be offered. As I said, it's almost as though varied election results meant different things to different people. And there was a bit of a contest on to try and claim, the mantles that were out there to be taken. And so there's the very progressive wing of the Democratic Party who like to associate themselves variously and to varying degrees with either Bernie Sanders or with the Democratic Socialists of America, et cetera, who had a big night as well. And here's what I mean. There was a Democratic Socialist affiliated candidate elected in Virginia to the state legislature in the Manassas area, which you may or may not recognize as the home of the Battle of Bull Run National Battlefield Monument. So a big, an important Civil War location. So, Civil War's a big deal there, as it is all over Virginia for various reasons and to varying degrees. And recognized from different and varying perspectives along the way as well. But since they were making that such a big issue, it's kind of worth noting. And it's worth noting that it wasn't like an open seat where people were like, oh, let's give this guy a shot. He unseated the Republican whip, I believe, in the House of Delegates. So it was a big turnover. And so, the spin game begins. And so on the one hand, you have things like that, like here's this one guy, and this shows that the Democratic Socialist agenda can win, and it does. But then just to carry things a little further, I note the tweet of Alex Press, who I'm gonna have to scroll down and see, but where does Alex Press do her writing chiefly? A Jacobin magazine, which we've read from a number of times on the air. But yeah, I mean, it considers itself to be holding out a wing of progressivism, to be sure. But of course, she's had bylines appear in other places like Vox.com, which most people would say is quite the opposite. So I don't know Alex Press. I shouldn't try to characterize her writing, but this was picked up on by a lot of people, by fans of Democratic Socialists And I do not necessarily write myself off as a fan of them. I like to march in solidarity with them where I can. And also more mainstream Democrats who say things like, boy, I hate those bastards. There's a little bit of that out there, too. So this was a take that I don't know if it's going to really hold up. LMAO, she writes, the Dem Socialists member Lee Carter, who just won a seat in the Virginia legislature, had precisely zero help from the Dems. Varying definitions of what constitutes zero help out there, it looks like. But before I get to that, I just want to contrast it. I say there's other folks out there doing the same sort of credit grabbing or take offering. Oliver Willis among them, for instance, with another okay. Alex has a valid point. There probably wasn't as much institutional help for this guy as there could have been. And there's a whole separate question of how much should there be or could there be, and is it relevant if it does or doesn't show, and what does it mean? But also out there is, this is also a point too, Oliver Willis saying a lot of silence from the people who just found out about politics last year and said Northam was, quote, blowing it. Now, Cillizza, who allegedly found out about politics a long time ago and is paid handsomely to tell you what he knows about it, said the same damn thing. So, and by the way, the people who were saying it from a democratic socialist point of view would be horrified to find themselves rhetorically in agreement with Chris Cillizza. But it's just, coming at the same conclusion from different spaces. That happens all the time. Anyway, you're both right, and you're both wrong. For instance, the question of whether or not there was, in fact, zero help, I'm curious about this. It includes a link to the Richmond Times-Dispatch piece, which I don't know whether that's really going to outline the same impression of zero help or not. I have my doubts about it. But in the meantime, long story short on that one, I have the tweet from Dana Hool, who disagrees, saying it this way. What about, essentially the zero help thing? $100,000 or so of the $240,000 that Lee Carter reported raising and spending came from Democratic committees and super PACs. Now, I don't know exactly what the source is on that one, and I wouldn't be surprised to find out it ended up being that same Richmond Times-Dispatch piece. But what does it mean? What does it mean to say that the person had zero help from Dems if $100,000 out of the $240,000 raised and spent came from Democratic super PACs and other committees, right? I would say it doesn't make a great deal of sense. So, depending on what your definition of help is, and by the way, that brings us back to the same discussion we were having once again yesterday, which is, I guess, if you enter the ring saying, well, I'm a Democrat, yes, or I will run as a Democrat, but I consider myself first a democratic socialist and I hold myself out as separate and apart from you. What does that mean in terms of your ability to win over or charm the folks who would, if won over, release resources to you? And then on the other hand, another point that Dana also made, and maybe a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's a point nonetheless. So you got zero help from institutional Democrats? Brilliant. Excellent. Because could there be a better or more efficient allocation of resources? They spent $0 on you and won a seat for free. Of course, you might opt not to deliver it up to them, but if you decided to hold yourself out as separate and apart from Democrats when it comes to voting in a closely divided House of Delegates, and you do so out of spite, and it would really kind of have to be out of spite, because I mean, it's a little worrisome when you see, well, I didn't get any help from institutional Democrats. I know, because you came in and said, I am not a Democrat. I'm a democratic socialist because I don't like you guys. You suck. I will not attach my name to your brand. Please give me some of your brand's money. Well, I don't know if that's the most persuasive argument in the world, but we'll see what happens and what Lee Carter is able to deliver. And I'm hopeful that it'll go well, and that it will wake people up to the possibility that, you know what, for years we've been hanging this socialism label on people as if it was an automatic loser, and maybe in this current atmosphere and in the future it isn't and shouldn't be. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to rehabilitate that label. Here's the story from the Richmond Times-Dispatch, just to see if there's any way of settling these questions. Democratic hopes were high back in April that the party could unseat an influential Republican lawmaker from Northern Virginia. That would be the whip, right? Delegate Jackson H. Miller, the House Majority Whip, had run for clerk of court for Prince William, Manassas, and Manassas Park. He was favored to win, but Democrats, energized by opposition to Donald Trump in the White House, got out their voters. Democratic candidate Jacqueline Smith pulled an upset over Miller. Okay. So it wasn't that he unseated the guy. Democrats swore they were coming for Miller's House seat. No, I guess he can hold both. Yeah. Or does that mean that Miller didn't run? I don't know. Is Virginia one of those states where you can hold two offices? Democrats swore they were coming for Miller's House seat next in a district where Hillary Clinton won 53% of the vote in November. The party looked forward to running an aggressive campaign in the 50th. Democratic caucus chair Delegate Charneil L. Herring, Democrat of Alexandria, said in April. 6 months later, Democratic brass in Richmond are silent about the seat. This, a piece from late October, by the way. Why are they silent about the seat? In order for a Democratic candidate to get party money and backing, the candidate must report daily to party brass in Richmond about how many doors they've knocked, how many fundraising calls they've made, how many hours they've spent fundraising on the phone, even how many thank you notes have been sent. That's a little tight control, I guess, but I suppose that's what they call QC, quality control. And they might be overdoing it a bit, but actually another way of looking at that is being careful with money. Things that usually win you races will win you more money from us. And if you do not want to show us that you are doing it, you will have to raise your own money, and that's not necessarily a bad place to be coming from. If it was, you can't have any money unless you knuckle under and reject socialism and swear fealty to us, that's a little different. Now, some people might not see any difference between the two, but I do. Lee Carter, assuming we're defining them accurately. Lee Carter, the Democratic candidate against Miller, opted out, so his party essentially cut him off, saying that without him providing information, they had no choice but to put financial resources into candidates that they know are doing what the party believes is required to win. Republicans hold a 66-34 majority in the state house. That was before that election, and all 100 seats were up for election on November 7th. So at 66-34 minority, they really had to be kind of careful with what they were doing with their resources. And they made it all the way to 50-50 thus far, by the way. Pretty damn good. Carter says there's more to the story, however, as he tries to unseat the incumbent Republican Miller. So I guess there you go. Carter, a former Marine who grew up in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, is the kind of rogue candidate that gives an apparatus like the Democratic Party of Virginia a fit as the party makes an offensive against Republican House of Delegates incumbents across Northern Virginia and in a few other parts of the state. So you're getting the idea here of exactly what the battle was about at first. But the success of his campaign suggests to me that he did, in fact, spend his time knocking on doors, talking with voters, raising money, and thanking them for their support. That he didn't want to share that information with the Democratic Party brass in Richmond, well, okay, I guess that's up to you. And, but like I said, another way of looking at this was brilliant allocation of limited resources by the party brass in Richmond. They won for free as far as they're concerned. Just wanted to see, though, whether there was any source in here for Dana's assertion that $100,000 of his $240,000 came from Democratic super PACs and committees. I don't know if I'm going to find it in here, but I'd love to see if we can verify that. Anyway, he's an outspoken Democratic socialist, and I have no problem with that, but I also have no problem with people who are in control of money saying, I would like to see that you're using it wisely when I give it to you. And when people say, I refuse to show you that, I say, okay, well, I going to have to refuse to give you money. We got a lot of battles to fight out here. We're at a 66-34 disadvantage. And in order to have any shot at controlling the legislature, we got to win 16 seats, and we've never won more than, I don't think, 4 in an election like this. So we're going to have to put our money elsewhere. Good luck to you. Hope you win. But, don't gripe too much about not getting the support of institutional Democrats since you hate them anyway, I guess, would have to be the message. We'll see. Maybe he'll become a big Democratic socialist hero for all in Virginia and beyond. In the meantime, we have Joan McCarter, big Democratic socialist hero for all. I don't know. Are you a Democratic socialist? Would you adopt that label? No, I don't know, maybe not.
No.
It doesn't work for you very well in Idaho.
The Democratic Socialists are not going to come to Idaho.
They might not.
I would think.
Yeah, they couldn't enforce party discipline there. By the way, one day the Democratic Socialists will take over America and tell somebody that they're not giving them any money unless they report to them how many doors they knocked. So it will work.
Yes. I probably, on the whole spectrum, lean far more towards socialist than not.
Sure, why not? It's fun.
But, there's the party part of it.
Yeah, you're getting together with others who you will sometimes disagree with, but for common overarching causes. People like it. It works pretty well. So well, in fact, that there are 2 of them in this country. And it's, not surprising that coalitions form and you cooperate. And, he's not going to show up and refuse to caucus with them, I don't think. So, what are you going to do? He's a sellout, is what I'm saying. Already. I don't know. By agreeing to tell them that he wouldn't tell them, he's already cooperated too much and has been co-opted.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's going to betray the cause, undoubtedly.
Absolutely. There's a nice little poster included here. I guess the Republican opponent here sent out a fun flyer of labeled socialism, and with Karl Marx and Engels and Lenin and Stalin and Mao's faces on it in that futurist, Soviet style, and then Carter over at the end there, but with an actual photo of him and looking a little bit goofy, of course, when they take those pictures of him and stamping Carter on his head. So, okay, pretty weird and wild. So what's up, Joan? You want to talk election or something else?
Well, yeah, let's talk election a little bit. Okay. Hey, Virginia.
All right. Yeah.
And the power of the gerrymander.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Important. Okay.
As Sam Stein points out on Twitter, Democrats in the end won 53% of the House of Delegate votes to the GOP's 44%, but still only have a 50-50 split.
Yes, that there you go. So gerrymandering at the state level for the state legislature, yes. But that's a big issue coming up.
It's just a microcosm of what happens nationally.
Yeah, and we're going to do that again pretty soon, and there was a real threat of that being under Republican control.
Yep.
And now less so. So and
a little less so, I think. Maybe a lot less so.
Yeah, like not at all, maybe, which is great. And as was pointed out, there's, for instance, that one still outstanding unsettled contest for a seat that will determine whether the House of Delegates remains tied or the Democrats might, in fact, sneak out a one-seat advantage. The vote tally is separated by 12 votes, and those 12 votes and I guess whatever else is still outstanding in the absentee ballots or whatever the recount turns up may help determine what happens for congressional redistricting here in Virginia, and then maybe have an outsized influence in a closely divided United States Congress for the next decade.
Right.
So, please vote. If you haven't, you missed it. But vote next time.
And since we're in such a cheerful mood today, here's another laugh for you.
All right.
Orrin Hatch speaking on the Senate floor. on the elections last night.
Okay.
I think if Trump had got more involved, they would have turned another way. Sure, Orrin Hatch.
Yeah, I mean, Trump thinks so, but yeah, I don't know how much he believes it or what. I mean, I guess Trump believes it. Steve Bannon believes it. He's angry that he wasn't invited for a Gillespie rally.
I think none of them are paying enough attention to what happened all over the country.
Yeah.
In state and local elections.
I
particularly
guess not.
local elections. I mean, all of the anecdotal stuff, the suburban Philadelphia county, Delco? I think Delco is Idaho, where in at least 100 years there has not been a Democrat on the county council.
Oh.
Now has 2 Democrats.
Yeah, that'll be big news. Yeah, there's quite a wave going on here.
Stuff like this everywhere. Idaho Falls, Idaho. Very, very
That's
Mormon. They've got the 2 most progressive candidates got onto the city council.
Excellent.
Here in Boise, we've got a Latina now for the first time on our city council.
A lot of first things.
It's stuff happening all over the country, all over.
Well, run
I
everywhere.
think Trump was involved as much as Trump needed to be involved in last night's election results.
True. And you probably shouldn't lose sight of the fact that he's a extraordinarily lazy person, and you wouldn't necessarily get him involved. I mean, he didn't have to be in Korea during the biggest, election event or the biggest political event in the country since his election, but he opted to be, and why is that not his fault?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Orrin Hatch.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, what else is he going to say? He's like, flushed his career down the toilet for Donald Trump, and he knows it, and that's why he's retiring, and whatever.
Has Hatch said he's going to retire?
I thought that he did say that. If he didn't, then let me be the first to say you are retiring.
I think he has been waffling on that.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
At 82 years old, I believe.
Right. So what I'm saying
not wanting
is,
to be ageist here, but this is a 6-year term.
Yes. And we've seen it happen before.
The Senate is higher than life expectancy in the general population.
True.
But still.
They have their own doctor. And so that's part of what makes it work.
And their own pharmacy.
Yeah. They get all the benefits there. I did see something about it. So there's a yes and a no. There's the Atlantic reporting at the end of last month. Orrin Hatch tells friends he plans to retire, but I guess he's not telling anybody else. And then there's the Hill report of the same day. Hatch denies he's decided to make way for Romney. So it might be that he's retiring, but not because of Romney.
If Romney decides he's going to run, then Hatch will step down.
Okay. Well,
that's what.
Yeah. I don't know whether I think Romney would do that or not. I mean, this is a great time for Romney really to just say, you know what? I'm just not getting back in. I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I cheat people for money. It's terrific.
I got lots of money without this headache.
Car, elevator, horses. My wife needs me. And that's true. Stay home.
Yes. MS gets worse as you get older for most people. And
right.
It would be the good Mormon kind of thing to do.
Right.
To take care of family first.
Exactly. You should do that and then consider giving back all the money you stole. That's another idea. But first, stay retired and do what you do.
And this, in fact, gives me a segue into Medicaid.
Excellent.
Why? So, Maine voted overwhelmingly to expand Medicaid last night.
Right.
After, I think, 6 vetoes from Paul Lepage.
I didn't even realize.
I like
Lepage. That's nice. Yes.
He's, Frenchify him a bit.
Sure, he could be a Cajun.
I think it was 6 times he vetoed Medicaid expansion from the legislature, and they never had the votes to override. So the people just said, okay, then we're going to do it.
All right.
And by a 19-point margin, they did. Or 18 or 19.
Oh, well, that's different. 18.
A lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. He's
But
the kind of
now,
guy that might try to figure something out.
First thing he says this morning is
Yeah?
that he's not going to do it unless the legislature comes up with the money that he says it's going to cost. Which is not what the nonpartisan budgeting committee for the state says it will cost. So we're going to see a lot of obstruction, I believe, from Lepage and probably from the Trump administration too, trying to thwart the will of the voters. I think
true.
what you're going to see from the legislature is a recognition of the will of the voters, and that might be able to overcome it.
I hope so.
Medicaid expansion hasn't come to Maine yet.
Yeah,
Lepage has
good.
got it, so.
Good point. I mean, it's bad, but the point is good. Already we're bumping up on break time here. Not quite, but yeah, I was wondering whether this governor is the kind of guy who would spend the evening and in the morning hours trying to figure out a way to not do this thing. And I guess there's a mechanism, which is just sitting on your hands and saying, screw you. And he's been in impeachment trouble with his legislature before. And I guess that's out there again, but this might not end up becoming an impeachable thing if he's got a real mechanism. Although, is that a real mechanism? If you don't do what I say it costs, I mean, what if he says it costs $1 trillion or whatever?
Right.
And he's crazy, so he might just do that. We will be taking a brief break, even though Joan just got here, it feels like, and we'll be returning in just a moment to catch up on more. Got to boost the levels to bring things back up and then turn them back down again. To bring you back to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We had a pleasant chat in the office space in the back and just kept going right on into the end of the break. Joan McCarter still here with us and plenty to catch up on here. Just shooting the breeze about the various noises in the background at our houses, though. So we're joining Greg in that. What else have we got? We left off talking about the crazy governor of Maine and how he might try to thwart the results of the Medicaid expansion vote. But so I think I've got a good handle on that.
One of the things that's important to recognize here is just the overwhelming nature of that vote. But also at the same time, looking at the exit polling in Virginia, where health care was an overriding concern for voters there, and looking at how that played out. I think Greg talked about this a little bit this morning.
He did.
Medicaid expansion in Virginia, how it's been thwarted by the legislature there.
Yes.
So we could, I think it's more likely that we're going to see Medicaid expansion in Virginia than we are in Maine. Sooner.
Yeah, well,
but also, tying back to Utah and Mormons, and Idaho, there are going to be Medicaid expansion ballot measures in 2018 in both of those states.
That's an idea. If we've run out of reasons to have marijuana legalization, ballot initiatives and questions like that, this is a well formulated one. As we are finally discovering, people are like, you know what, I kind of actually do like having it made easier for me to get health care coverage, despite the fact that I hated Obama, and so therefore hated Obamacare. But now he's gone, and I do like this insurance thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. We ought to be putting on as many ballots as possible. Bring people out and say, insist on it, and while you're here, maybe you want to vote for people who are running for office too.
Maybe.
Like people who support this.
So that's a glimmer of hope for both Utah and Idaho. The special congressional election in Utah didn't particularly go well for us last night, but that's not a huge surprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so I guess that's what Trump was going on about, was the 4 seats. But okay, so yeah, the Utah one wasn't going to, wasn't likely to go our way anyway. But by the way, I did say I think I saw Jason Chaffetz already on Fox News just the other day. Was he? Wasn't it him who was famously complaining about something that made viral rounds? And now I'm blanked out. That's how important it was to see Chaffetz on the air. But
yeah, he's one of them who was complaining about something, and I don't remember what. It was ridiculous.
It was like briefly
outrageous. I remember it being ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh well. So he's fading from
nearly as ridiculous as Chris Collins.
Yes. Wow.
Saying, my donors are going to be really PO'd at me if I don't pass this tax cut bill.
Yeah. No,
on the heels of telling Vox, who cares if the voters are opposed to it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's bad. But it is the mistake of simply allowing it to be attributed to you as opposed to telling people off the record. We've been hearing that for some weeks now, that the donors are saying, if you don't get this thing done, we're done with you. That's been the chief motivation at caucus or conference meetings for the Republicans for a long time, and it was openly acknowledged when Trump came to speak to the House Republican conference a couple of weeks ago, or I guess it was a joint Republican conference meeting, and it was openly stated then, except no one would put their name to it. Now this guy has done it, and well, duh.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, duh.
Good for you.
He might be regretting that a little bit, looking at last night's vote in New Jersey.
Maybe. Although, I wonder, that's an interesting play. I guess if you're the first person to do it, or maybe the only or one of very few, right? And then you don't get the tax bill done, like you can go to them and they say, I told you we were done with you. Yeah, but I carried your message publicly, by name to the papers. I tried. I voted for it. I mean, it got defeated, but you can be sure I was on your side. I was advocating for you earlier. Oh, yeah, that's right. Here's 10 cents. Good boy.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
No? All right. Well.
And I agree with Greg. I don't think that this tax bill is going to make it through as is.
Yeah.
At some point, the deficit hawks are going to say, can we really do this? The deficit peacocks, I should say.
I guess. Do you think?
And we get the CBO score this morning saying it's going to be, let's see, 1.2 trillion that it's adding. 1.4 trillion, not including the macroeconomic effects of enacting the legislation in the next 10 years, that it's going to add to the deficit.
Yes. Though
at some point, which I believe that 1.2 trillion is the minimum that is allowed in the budget resolution for the Senate.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
I think they had it set at 1.2, and now CBO is saying it's 1.4. Sorry, guys.
Oh, I guess I originally saw that it was 1.5, but I don't know whether I was looking at a draft or which house's bill that
sure
was.
It's 1.2.
Okay,
pretty sure.
That would explain it. Except I am disappointed. I think I guess they're not. Well, CBO wouldn't be able to do it, but that the parliamentarian doesn't say anything like, "This is really not supposed to be allowed to add anything." Honestly,
right?
You shouldn't be doing this. But whatever.
But in the rules that they passed for themselves.
Yeah.
Of course, didn't they also? Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think they also said, "Oh, and by the way, neener CBO, we're not going to be paying attention to you."
Right. So I guess they can do that.
I think that was in there too. So never mind.
Yeah. Well, they'll ignore them. So there are some bird rule challenges yet to be dealt with, and they can tweak things. And I don't think it's going to create major change, but it will make certainly the logical underpinnings of the bill fall apart. But I think everybody knew that was going to happen anyway. If they say for instance, okay, well, you have a budget impact beyond the budget window that's impermissible under the Byrd rule, they'll simply say, all right, so we'll sunset everything at the end of 10 years, like they did with the Bush tax cuts. But they have been arguing forever that you got to make these things permanent so that businesses can plan long term and be able to count on them. And if you don't make them permanent, then it's a huge disaster for the economy and you don't get all the benefits of the tax cut. And then they'll just go and do it. And we'll say, but I thought you said you won't get any of the benefit of the tax cut. Yeah, I said that, but I didn't mean it.
Right.
Oh, I said it when I thought I could get permanence out of you. Now that I see that I can't, I'm for tax cuts that aren't permanent, and we'll get around to doing the right thing later. And well, it's not a bad bet, but okay. It just means that they were lying the whole time. Ta-da! Now you know.
Ta-da!
There you are. Now let's vote. So, okay.
I think we're going to see a harder time. And you're going to have, you've got, on the one hand, Ted Cruz saying, we've got to repeal the Obamacare mandate in this. And you've got Lisa Murkowski. Yes, and Susan Collins. I almost said Susan Murkowski.
Same thing.
Yeah, same. Saying, no, we're not going to put health care in this. You've got Brady on the House side saying, no, there's no way we're going to do Obamacare repeal in this. We'll deal with it later. So that's just another fight that they're going to have in the Senate.
Good. We should go Trump
and,
with that.
you know, if Rand Paul recovers and returns in time, he'll join Ted Cruz in that fight.
Yes, I guess so, but we'll have to see. It's a race against the clock to heal enough for him to travel. So I understand that was about leaf blowing, as a matter of fact. To bring us back to Greg. Greg tackled Rand Paul, the neighbor who attacked him, and they had a great time on the right wing for about 24 hours, insisting that this was the Antifa revolution. That the anti-fascist super soldiers
they promised was coming on Saturday.
Yes. Right. And he showed up to tackle Rand Paul, but it was just a neighbor. And then lots of speculation, and then of course it was, well, leave it to liberal Democrats to make it violent when they disagree and over politics. And then it turns out, I guess they disagreed over landscaping issues, which you also shouldn't really tackle people over. But I could see Rand Paul driving a neighbor to the point of tackling and pummeling him, sure.
I could, as soon as the story was out, it's like, well, yeah, of course. It's Rand Paul. Can you imagine being his neighbor for 20 years? At some point, you're going to have to tackle him because he's Rand Paul.
He's asking for it, I'm telling you. Did you see what he was wearing? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I know we'll get a lot of flack. We would if we were saying it on Twitter where they can pay attention to it. How dare you insinuate that political violence is
you have to think about who were the most punchable people in the Senate.
He'd be among them.
He's in the top 5.
Sure. I'm just
not
saying.
Not that we advocate violence ever.
Among people who punch.
I would think among the people who would be most irritating to have to live next door to for 20 years.
Yes.
Although next door is relative in his gated community.
True.
It's like an acre and a half away. But
okay. It's a lot of leaves.
It's a lot of leaves.
Yeah. So don't you all leave the show and then go punch Rand Paul. But I'm saying I don't condone it. I understand it. Isn't that the line? Besides which, he brought it on himself. Yes. And just as they commonly say about sexual assault victims. And he should really, if he doesn't want to be punched.
See Rand Paul blowing leaves onto the other guy's lawn.
I wonder if he was doing that. And screaming, tragedy of the commons. Ha ha. Screw you. I don't know. Maybe. There may be disputed land in between the two. They need a DMZ between them. But I don't know. It's 2 doctors going at it. And 5 ribs, though. He got pummeled pretty good.
Thoughts and prayers to Rand Paul's
Yes, right.
ribs.
There's really no law that could have prevented this, though.
No.
So I don't even really want to try. And honestly, it just prevents all the good rib crackers out there from breaking the ribs of neighborhood bullies who deserve it.
Right.
They're defending their
What
families.
he needed was a good rib cracker. If there'd been a good rib cracker there, then Rand Paul's ribs would have been spared.
Right, absolutely true. And, this is the way we fight tyranny in this country. King George had been here, I'd have broken his ribs too. Just by way of, it's just true.
That makes absolutely no sense.
I don't know. Well, neither does Rand Paul. It doesn't make any sense. But don't break your neighbor's ribs, no matter who he is.
No, we do not condone that.
Okay. What?
That's Rand Paul.
Yeah, right. I didn't say that. We'll edit that out. Okay. You can have fun with this. And let's see, what other items on the agenda for the day? Fun points or?
Well, I want to.
Yeah.
Bring out two big wins that we had.
Excellent. Let's do that.
For our Daily Coast community.
Oh.
All of our endorsed candidates won yesterday.
Really? That's a big thing.
That's a big thing. And this is huge. This I never saw coming. We doubled Obamacare enrollments in the first day from over last year. Record-setting Obamacare enrollments. And no, Daily Coast is not solely responsible for that, but all of those people, last I heard it was more than 1,300 who signed up to be street team volunteers to talk about Obamacare enrollment and get the word out. It's working.
I guess so.
Now we've got 5 more weeks to go, so early momentum is great, and we've got to keep that up. But talk about resistance. Yeah.
That's very nice news, and it will build on itself because now, of course, we'll have stories about, oh my God, what is happening here exactly. The Trump administration did everything they could to minimize enrollments, and in fact, Trump himself insisted that there wasn't anything to enroll in anyway because Obamacare was dead. And so you would have expected, obviously, some people are going to find out and enroll, but you would not have expected record-breaking enrollment. And that'll generate some news and generate more people enrolling, I assume, saying, oh, my God, there is a real thing.
Absolutely.
But I thought the president said there was nothing. Yeah, well, he's an inveterate liar. And if he says there's no such thing as Obamacare, you can bet it's not only there, but breaking records.
And why that is important is that the more people who are enrolled, the larger the risk pool is. The lower premiums will be, and the healthier the markets will be overall.
Pretty good.
So Donald Trump's death spiral isn't going to happen.
The door's open, by the way, Mr. Trump, to simply reverse course and say, see, I fixed it. It's fantastic. We need to do more of this. And
absolutely. Declare victory and move on.
Yeah. Trump Care, it's the best. Sign up. We'll put some money into it. Everybody gets taken care of. And Obama, who's not running for anything ever again, won't have his name on it anymore. Boo-hoo. He'll leave you alone. He'll play golf and deserve it. And everyone else will get health care. So I'd be okay with it. And it was actually out there as a prediction. A lot of people did say that maybe the thing he would do is fail to repeal it and then just simply declare Obamacare to be Trump care, painted gold, and say that's it.
It could still happen.
I guess so.
And in a way, he did paint it gold.
Yeah, that's right. You were telling us last week. He mistakenly painted it gold, and he could. I thought he would maybe end up doing it on purpose. He backed into it as just extraordinarily Trumpian, but I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's good.
So that's kind of fun. Speaking of Obama, he's reporting for jury duty this morning.
Okay. That's good. That's nice.
What do you think the chances are Obama's going to be sat on a jury?
I think 0, I guess, but I mean, it's nice of him to show up.
It could be a little distracting in the trial.
Yeah, I guess so. That's probably true. I mean, it's kind of funny. I would like to watch to see who strikes him from the jury, whether it's the prosecution or the defense, if it's assuming a criminal case, and it might not be. So.
Yeah, we don't know. It would be really interesting if it was a grand jury.
Yes, that's true. It would be really interesting if he were on grand jury duty here in Washington, though. Mm-hmm. That would be fantastic.
Or in New York?
True, right, yeah. Or it'd be fun to see him on, Mueller's grand jury, let's say. I don't think he'd make it. But I suppose the system is a little bit different there with getting rid of grand jurors. I don't know. I don't think there is one the same that we're used to seeing in courtroom petty jury voir dire. But anyway, that's interesting. It's something for him to do. It brings him back to Chicago, which is a disaster, by the way.
A disaster.
Yeah, right. I'm sure that all of Trump's fans think he'll probably get murdered while he's on jury duty. But as it happens, Chicago seems to be functioning and pleasant. So
yeah.
Good. Okay.
I've only had good experiences there.
Yeah, it's I've never been murdered there, not even once.
No.
So, let's see. So that'll keep him busy. That's nice. More I don't know. Let's see what else. Indictments and to come at some point. Trump is overseas. We're all happy about him being out of our hair and too busy to tweet.
And we're really happy that the weather prevented him from going to the DMZ yesterday.
Yeah.
Really relieved.
I guess so. I wonder what he would have done there. But there's stairs there. I think you have to climb stairs to get up to these platforms to look over. And he's not
so
good
are
with
you
those.
thinking maybe the weather was just an excuse? He was
Maybe.
apparently five minutes away.
Yeah. I don't know what would have
Yeah.
turned him around. But he loved saying, I guess he just loved the idea that it would have been a surprise visit, even though it was, I'm going to go to the DMZ. And then a day before said, I'm not going to the DMZ. And then 5 minutes later said, I am, surprise. Not a surprise. I thought you were going until 2 minutes ago you said you weren't. But what did they say? I saw that the weather was foggy. So I guess was that supposed to mean that they can't see into the DMZ? And so it wasn't worth going?
They couldn't land the plane. I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. But
all right. Well, whatever.
speaking of indictments,
Yes, I'd like to.
Corey Lewandowski this morning says his memory has been refreshed.
Good
and
for
now he
him.
remembers that he got an email from Carter Page saying he was going to Moscow.
Yes. That caused a bit of a splash yesterday as CNN hire Corey Lewandowski insisted that he had no idea whatsoever. In other words,
I don't even know who Carter Page is. Never heard of the guy.
Right. I don't know. So I didn't know he was going to Moscow. Oh, yes, I did. He emailed me and said, I'm going to Moscow. And I answered, okay, good. I'm glad. That will be good for our campaign. Oh, yeah. Now that you mention it. But Carter Page is a little bit of a wacko himself, and he's changed his story about that a number of times, and it depends on whether he's under oath or not, and who knows which one he's lying with.
He's pleading the fifth on. Carter Page is kind of a wacko, yes.
Yeah. I liked his sovereign citizen style invocation of the Fifth Amendment, though. A 4-page single-spaced declaration to say he wasn't going to say anything, and then providing 200 pages of testimony after invoking the Fifth. What was he not talking about, is what I want to know. He's amazing.
It's thank God these people are such clowns.
Yeah, they
have
really are.
left such a phenomenal paper trail.
Yeah, they were active on the paper trail. That's for sure.
And they were. Is it arrogance? Is it stupidity?
It overlaps. I think it's a good Venn diagram.
I think it does overlap. Arrogance and ignorance.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no one tells Trumps no in the Trump organization. Because there's no point in doing that. It's about you go to work and you say yes and you collect the money that comes from saying yes to things. And that's facilitated by the fact that the person you're working for is stupid and can't tell the difference between whether or not you're accomplishing the things you said you would or not, just so long as his name is in the paper. So whatever. So then when they get outside of that bubble and either have to tell the truth or are surprised to find that their email chain is getting them in trouble. Well, it never got me in trouble before because there was no one to put me in trouble. So I've never been in trouble. So I don't take care about anything.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And so it's a little bit of arrogance. It'll never happen, and it never has. And stupidity, like I don't understand what trouble is because it's never happened to me. And if I did find myself in trouble, I would just pay Cy Vance to make me not in trouble. That guy's in trouble.
That guy's in trouble.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're not. Cyrus Vance is.
How did he do against his write-in appointment, I wonder?
Yeah.
I didn't check on that.
Me neither. So that makes me think that somebody would have said it on Twitter.
Yeah,
If
we
it
would have
were
found out by
otherwise.
now.
Well, I'll type it in and see what happens. I'm afraid to look. News. Let's see. I'll click over to the news. It's all about Weinstein. Yeah, reelected as Manhattan DA despite everything. I mean, right in. So what were you going to do? But phew, too bad. I wonder how close it came. And Mickey Mouse did great. Probably. All right. Well, that's sad, but we found out too late on that one, and I imagine his maybe this will be his last. 84.3% of the vote. So,
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, bad news. Okay. Well, we'll stick to the good stuff for the next couple of minutes anyway. Anything else we want to fit in or something happening today, later? Or
Well,
fun
I'm
that you
looking
saw?
ahead. We've got Paul Ryan ignoring that yesterday happened.
Okay, he does do that.
He does do that. Anything he doesn't want to know about, he's very good at not knowing about.
Right. Indictment
And he
what?
says so. I just ignore Trump when he tweets.
Not bad advice.
Yeah, not bad advice, but hardly leadership.
True. He's
Hardly
just super
leadership.
focused.
Yeah.
And
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this tax bill. I don't think he's going to have it done by Christmas. I'm hoping that he gets CHIP authorized by then.
that would be
Not
nice.
with this crappy poisoned pill bill.
Okay.
But we are now 39 days into CHIP and community health centers not being authorized for funding.
But they have a bill and it's
into
got
the point where states are going to have to start figuring out who they drop.
Yes.
Some states actually have in their constitutions that they cannot continue these programs if they don't have federal funding.
Yes, that's I recall. Yeah, I believe you mentioned that. What is the what's the poison in the current bill that they might be floating?
Well, the House actually passed it last week.
Oh, okay. Well, then they're not floating it.
And
We're eating it now.
includes Medicare means testing, and it takes money out of a public health prevention fund that is
That's
in Obamacare.
Okay, that too. Yeah, you got to that. Okay. And status for that, then it's just sitting on the table in the Senate.
The Senate's not doing anything. The Senate is ramming through nominations.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, they will be busy with that. Oh,
Hatch and Wyden have a good bill, a clean 5-year funding authorization that McConnell has yet to bring to the floor. The House bill can't pass the Senate. So,
okay.
So Paul Ryan put this thing through knowing that it wasn't going to go forward, knowing that the Senate wouldn't pass it.
All right.
And delaying even further actual funding for the program. More kids put in jeopardy. It's infuriating. It is infuriating.
You might think that, I mean, McConnell's not, going to be moved by that, but he might, you'd think, want to serve it back in reverse by passing a good Senate bill just quickly. If it's got good support on both sides, they can move it fairly quickly and then have it sit in the House and say that's the House that's not doing anything decent.
Absolutely. And now you've got a House that's going to be just a little bit freaked out by what happened yesterday.
Yeah. That's
Maybe
so
this
true.
can happen.
Well, he'd be well advised to do it, and I know you say they're moving nominations, and they are way behind. Although Trump is he does think he's the only one that matters. We do have that.
Oh, and by the way,
Yeah.
one more judicial nominee that the ABA has ruled not qualified.
Yes.
So that's 3 total.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I have a tweet here set aside. I meant to bring to your attention. claiming a fourth now. I don't know whether is Brett Talley in Alabama. I don't know if he's not on your radar, or maybe you had him as the third and we're missing the fourth, or maybe our source
I
here
had him as the
miscounted.
third and was missing the fourth. This is the fourth.
Well then, all right. So I don't know who they are. Well, I'll give you we'll provide the source on all that, and I don't know who's got the count right, but more than one is too many, and sort of unprecedented in that respect. Oop, wrong music there too. There hasn't been this many ever, and we were reminded also by Twitter sources that there were 0 in all 8 years of the Obama administration, and I don't think anybody had ever hit 2 before. Was that right?
Nobody's ever hit 2 before.
Yeah,
no.
but we'll do 4 or maybe 3. 3 still breaks the record.
I think it's 4.
Okay, excellent. We'll check into it. Thanks again for coming by. It was a great day to do it. Armando noted a particular lilt in the voice for you today. It's a very cheerful morning. So glad you could be here with us. And
it was great to be here. We'll talk to you next week.
Fun, right? Okay, we'll talk next week, and maybe we'll win a whole bunch of more elections that we create out of thin air. Woo-hoo. I don't know if we can do it by next week, but we'll work on it. There is Alabama coming up. Got to keep an eye on that one.
Let's go all in on Alabama, folks.
Why not? Nothing else going on. Thanks a lot, Joan. We will check in with you next week.
Bye-bye.
Take care. And yes, do stay tuned for the rest of the programming day here on Netroots Radio. And we got, I have a little sneak preview for you of what's coming up. Opening soon, as I mentioned yesterday, the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Justice Putnam. Going to be our Monday through Friday feature following this show. And we'll tell you a little bit more about it after this brief announcement.
From Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
Thanks for being with us here. So what comes up in the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Justice serves up a cornucopia of abundance in all the news that's fit to read. And in this reporter's opinion, a lively, humorous, and astute analysis of the issues of the day, along with spirited interviews at the chef's table with all the people you want to hear from.